Clarke County 911, where's your emergency?
Village of Pachuta, a quiet, sleepy little town located along Highway 11 in the western part of Clarke County, Mississippi. A community where everyone knows everyone and not much ever happens around here. Not much until the events that unfolded on March the 18th of 2021.
Central all units, be advised, need units to respond. Intersection Highway 18, Highway 11. Have a report of a man that was in the ditch and the ditch has caved in on him.
That morning, we set out to install a tap on the main sewer line.
I really thought I was going to die that day.
We got the hole dug, and once ever I got in the hole, my boss said, watch it, watch it, watch it. And I wouldn't take off running, and it just slumped in on me.
When dispatch notified me, they basically said that the town of Pachuta had called and said that they had had someone doing some construction work and the trench had collapsed.
I was really scared to begin with. It was hurting. My legs had already started to cramp, but I was just in major pain.
As we got down into the hole, we assessed and we figured out exactly what was happening, how Tyler was trapped down in there, what we could do to get him out. We had pumps brought to the scene to get some of the water out so that could help us to actually remove some of the dirt. We figured out very quickly that we were in over our heads as far as our local capabilities.
Thursday, March 18th, I had actually taken off that day, and I was at home, and my cell phone rang, and it was Eddie Ivy's phone number. Well, I answered it, and it was not Eddie Ivy. It was a deputy. He was telling me that Eddie is in the hole with a guy that's trapped in a trench, and they've been in there for a little bit, and Eddie can't get him out, and can you and your guys come get him out?
The amount of rainfall and the amount of water in the ground was part of the problem, because it was actually creating a vacuum and pinning him in even further where he was trapped in that wet mud, basically. So we had to do a lot of digging to get that out and get him where we could actually access him and get him out of that environment.
It was cool that day. It wasn't cold, but it was cool. But you're talking about mud and water, and hypothermia was one of the highest thought processes. And then about 30 minutes to an hour in, you start worrying about, okay, I'm trying to reach down to see how deep he is in this mud, and I can't forcibly put my hand and my arm down there. So that tells me the compression on his lower extremities is pretty tight. And so now we switch from not only are we worried about hypothermia, we're worried about compression syndrome, him losing blood flow, and oxygen to those lower limbs and having ischemia set in. You got frostbite, you got all kinds of things that, you know, typically in South Mississippi you don't have to worry about, but this particular day, all of those holes lined
I was
up.
trying to get off work early to go to a cheer competition. It was the reason that I was actually in that trench without a trench box, and we wasn't expecting it to be quite that deep. When we finally found the main, it was deep, but I was just gonna jump in there, drill the hole, put the fern coat around it, and we were gonna be out of there. And it didn't work like that. I missed the cheer competition. Yes, I was scared. When it originally happened, I was scared. I was in there for 5.5 hours. The first part, I was, more or less hurting, and then I went into shock, and then I realized, I may never see my daughter again, and that's what really, truly, that's what, hurt me.
That it was a very deep environment, very confining in that there was a bucket from that excavator that was still kind of in the way, partly blocking access and the ability to get in out of there that we couldn't move. Although also that bucket did serve as an anchor point where we could actually tie him off and give us a little bit of stability so that we didn't continue sinking into that mud. It helped us shore him up until we could get him dug out and get him out of that complete environment.
The problem is, as much rain as we had, the vibration of those engines is something outside the box that, unless you've had that training, you just don't think about it on a day-to-day basis. The vibration from the engine of those excavators running, accompanied with 2 to 4 inches of rain the day before, made that ground super unstable.
One thing we worry about with a trench rescue is the ground has already failed because it is sloughed in around the patient, and now we have a piece of heavy machinery very adjacent to the scene that is idling and vibrating, and we worry about that type thing causing secondary, collapses.
It's kind of a double-edged sword because one of the excavators was an older excavator, and the only way the hydraulics worked is as long as it was running. Well, that particular excavator was holding up the south wall from collapsing down onto Tyler and the crews that were in there. So it was kind of a, hey, we really need to do this quick, but this is one of those situations where, slow is, going slower is better for the patient, being able to take a step back and not rush things. And then flip to the other side of it from the medical side, being a paramedic in the county, now you've got a patient to worry about as well.
Technical rescue has a very low success rate. A lot of times the victims don't make it when they're in these kind of situations.
These are low frequency, high risk incidents. They don't happen very often, but when they do, the results can be very bad. And we were hoping for the best, but we had to be prepared for what if this went the other direction. I remember numerous times hearing Brother Castle sitting up on that piece of equipment, standing there beside the hole, wherever he was. I really don't know exactly where he was, but I remember hearing him praying. And that meant a lot, probably to a lot of people. Whether everybody knows that or not, that I think had an outcome, an influence in the outcome there.
On March 18th, I was up at my church. I pastor Barnett Independent Church up on the hill, and we was up there working, and we got a phone call to get down beside Norma Jean's Diner to help get Tyler out of the ditch. When I got there, I looked and I seen that Tyler was down in the ditch at that time, and I've worked the oil field, I've been in safety, and I knew that it wasn't good. I knew that the percentage of him coming out alive was very slim. And so they asked me to get on the track hoe to hold the wall back from falling on him because they wasn't able to shore it up at that time. I got on the track hoe, and as I was holding the lever over, the Lord just said, you need to pray for him. And I began to pray, and I mean, like, it seemed like I was praying for the whole time. I mean, I was just praying that God would bring him out of it and give us all the strength to help him get out of it, because I've heard of people going in 3 foot of a ditch and it caving on them and them not making it out alive, because 3 foot of dirt will kill you, just collapsing on your legs. And I was just up there praying to the Lord that God would bring him out of it.
I truly think between the emergency management director and Don Moore and that preacher, I wouldn't be here today. The community, which I could hear a bunch of people talking. I couldn't see. The only thing I could see was this guy and the preacher. I couldn't see anybody that was ground level. The community, when they finally got me out of the hole and they pulled me up with the backhoe and set me back down, when I come out, I could not believe the amount of the people that was surrounding me. That's one thing about this county is if something happens to one of us, the community shows up and shows out. I was actually told at one point in time I had some of the best there with me that day. That was a lie. I had the best of the best. When Don got there, I knew I was in good hands. He's hands down. If it was something that happened to me again tomorrow, if this happened to me again tomorrow, I had the right people there at the right time, at the right minute. Everything went perfect to me.
We were taking risks that we didn't have the right equipment. We didn't have the right personal protective equipment, the right equipment to keep us from becoming part of the problem. We were doing the best we could until we could get help there, and help came. When those guys got there, there was no question in my mind that it was going to be taken care of. I wasn't worried about them coming in and being half prepared or half trained or unprofessional. That was never an issue. We've seen them train. We've trained with them. We've been in the holes with them in a non-life-threatening environment. So when it came to a life-threatening environment like this, there was no doubt.
Teamwork is definitely the reason I think Tyler's standing here today. You made some very good decisions early in the incident. Calling for specialized help was a good one. Calling air care and getting high quality paramedics to the scene was another good move. We were having trouble extricating Tyler, and the paramedic finally said, look, his temperature is getting down, it's time, he's got to come out now. So once we got to the point where the paramedic said, you're starting to run out of time, then pulled him out of the hole.
Really just want to appreciate everybody that was there that day. The whole community together. I hate to leave somebody out, but I mean, they even sent water departments from out of the county. Had a guy come out of Ellisfield to come help. Saw it on the news. I just couldn't be any blessed to be able to spend another day on this earth if it weren't for the community. Most of them that was there that day were volunteers, and that goes to show you what Clarke County truly is.
The takeaway that I had was, we might not be a big city, we might not be a metropolitan area, but our community came together and they took care of what needed to be taken care of. From the first time I saw that hole, of course I didn't say that at the time, and probably haven't really said it until now, but the thought was definitely in my mind, based on training, based on experiences we've had in other locations, that this could have ended as a recovery, not a rescue.
It's very, very rare that responders get there in time to actually save somebody.
There were so many people that wanted to help, and it's the community we live in, it's the county that we live in. We don't have the resources, we don't have the equipment and the tools, but we have the people that will outwork anybody that I would put them up against in the state. So you have to kind of take your time, but you have to be deliberate in your moves so that you're not wasting time as well. And that's a fine line. That's a really balancing act that, to be honest with you, comes with experience. If you don't have that experience down in that hole that we had that day to A, know where the resources were to call, and B, know the time to make that call, probably looking at a different outcome, honestly.
10% of people in an accident of this type make it. I went back and looked at some records and all. So we were very fortunate that some decisions were made very early in the game to get some help on the way, and that the emergency manager knew who to call that day. You know, successful rescue all the way around. There was a lot of right people in the right place at the right time, which aided in the successful extrication of the victim in this case.
But at the end of the day, the people we have here in Clarke County, they're bar none to anybody else in the state. So many people that wanted to help. Again, it's so hard to name and leave off, but you've got multiple fire departments, you've got the town of Pachuta, you've got, you know, other counties that were coming over to help, and then you have, you know, the highway patrol, you've got UMC with air care coming down. Those guys at the guard base were phenomenal. It's a team effort, it really is, and that's what I take away. Probably, if I had to put a word on the day, or 2 words, was team effort.
I was worried for him, you know, but I was trying not to let him see the worry in me. I was just praying for him and praying that God would deliver him out of this. It's sad sometimes that God gets our attention that way, you know, that we have to go through something like that. But, you know, I'll never take, you know, I won't never take that for granted. Whenever Tyler would look up there at me, but I mean, that's all I could do was call on the Lord. You know, I knew that God was going to take care of him because, you know, I'm a big believer and I put my faith in the Lord 100%. And you know, and when I see somebody in dire straits like he was, you know, God kind of reaffirms that everything's going to be okay, that we just trust in him.
Did we do everything by the book? Absolutely not. Would I do it again? Yes, because that's what I signed on to do, is to protect the lives and the property of the citizens. And if that means putting myself in harm's way, then that's what it takes. I think most any emergency responder, whether they're law enforcement, EMS, fire, emergency management, if they're in the business for the right reason, they're going to take that risk. They're going to put themselves in harm's way to protect the people they serve.
Since that day, Tyler has made a full recovery and has returned to work, but not without the complications that came with the rescue. Tyler remembers everything and recalls everything just as it happened, like it was yesterday. Although the hole has been covered up with soil and a new structure has been erected on the site, Tyler will never forget those who came to his immediate rescue on that dreary day. This documentary on Clarke County Hot Topics is dedicated to all those who stood by, supported, prayed, and served in the Pachuta rescue efforts. This video goes out to all of you.